Welcome to the Genealogy Gems podcast, providing quick and innovative ways to make the absolute most out of your research time and creative ideas for sharing and displaying your family history. I'm your host, Lisa Louise Cook. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Genealogy Gems podcast. It's Genealogy Radio, online all the time. Great to have you on board for episode number 87, and we are here to talk about family history. And first off, I just want to thank all of you premium members who joined me for the first ever Genealogy Gems webinar. We covered getting the scoop from old newspapers and had a grand time. We called this our beta webinar because we knew we had to work out the kinks as we learned how to host these webinars online. And we had a little bit of a kink as we launched, trying to work out getting everybody signed in. But most folks were successful in getting in, and we had a pretty full house. It was terrific. But don't worry, premium members, if you missed the webinar, because this first webinar has been posted as bonus content in the premium area of the Genealogy Gems website. So you can watch the recording at your leisure, download the handout with all the websites we talked about. There were a ton of them. You know, I just love doing these webinars, and we incorporated a lot of fun stuff, I think. It was interactive. The attendees were asking and answering questions. My daughter Lacey was there as our hostess and moderator. And we even held a surprise random drawing and gave away a 1-year premium membership. Joyce Noble won the prize and got an extra free year added to her premium membership. And I've been hearing from so many of you who attended, wow, you guys got too busy and have already been putting into practice what we talked about. And it sounds like you're having some fantastic newspaper success, and that is awesome to hear. I love when you email and share that stuff with me. Cherie Baxter wrote in, she says, very nicely done. I enjoyed every minute. Learned a lot too. Can't wait until the next webinar. AC Ivory wrote in, he says, oh, it was so much fun. I really liked the interactivity part where we took the survey questions. I thought that was really fun to be able to interact with you and others. And I'm looking forward to your future webinars. And Martha Zervoudakis, she says, I have participated in other webinars, but your relaxed and friendly style made it fun. Thank you, Martha. And Lisa Lear, she wrote in, the webinar was wonderful. Of course, I picked up some great how-to tips, and it's making me rethink using newspapers for my family in Northeast Louisiana. The local paper has nothing before 1930-ish, and I've been to the office to talk to them. Now I'll go outside the area. Maybe Monroe will have something. I had used your idea of looking at an issue to get an idea where the obits are and were, but assumed that my family wouldn't be mentioned in a paper 20 or 30 miles away. I have to start thinking outside the box, and you're helping me do just that. This webinar was a first for me, and I will be anxiously awaiting the next one. Go and put my name on the top of the list. She says, I mean that, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. I sure will. And Joan Sanaker, she wrote in, thank you so much. It was wonderful. I could see you standing in front of the classroom. Please do more. Well, we certainly will do more, Joan. Stay tuned to the podcast and keep an eye on the Genealogy Gems e-newsletter for the next announcement of the next webinar. And premium members, you will get all webinars half price. That's one of the bonuses of being a premium member. So this is a great time to become a member if you haven't already. Not only do you get the full year, of course, of exclusive podcasts and videos, but you're also going to be able to watch the newspaper webinar that we just did. It's currently posted online, the recording, and you can download the handout. And of course, then you will also get 50% discount on the future webinars. So a good deal there. Okay, well, there's a lot of genealogy news coming in on the wire, so let's get to it. First, from FamilySearch, more new indexing projects have been announced, and that, of course, means new digitized records coming down the pike. That's good news. They are working on death records 1933 to 1937 for Ontario, Canada. Also, marriage records for Ontario 1869 to 1927. That's part A of a new project. They're also working on church records for Baden, Germany, 1810 to 1869. This is part C of an ongoing project. And also Protestant Registres from Paris, France, 1612 to 1906. That's part D of an ongoing project. They are working on, they've just started up the 1910 federal census for North Carolina, North Dakota, and Oklahoma. They have also recently finished some indexing projects, which means those are going to be removed from the available online indexing batches now that they're done. They're going to go through a final completion check process and be published on the pilot.familysearch.org website in the near future. Those include Part B of that Baden, Germany church record project, 1810 to 1869, Part C of the Protestant Registers for Paris, France, and marriage records for Clay County, Indiana, 1811 through 1959. And they have just wrapped up the 1910 federal census for Mississippi, Missouri, Nevada, New Hampshire, and New Jersey. And then over at World Vital Records, they have been busy lately announcing the addition of passenger data files to their website. They've been working together with the National Archives and the Center for Immigration Research, and the result is a collection which provides detailed extracts from ship passenger lists in the records of the U.S. Customs Service. So they have just recently announced the Italians to America passenger data file, 1855 to 1900. That collection is supposed to feature up to 845,000 records. They have the Germans to America passenger data file, 1850 to 1897. That one features 4 million records that will help researchers discover details about passengers coming from the ports of New York, Baltimore, New Orleans, and Philadelphia. And Russians to America, that passenger data file, 1834 to 1897. So that's what they're working on over at the World Vital Records website. Now, for our British listeners, you've been hearing us talk about how excited we are that Who Do You Think You Are has come to American television. But the American version of the series is coming to the UK. You guys have had the original version in the UK for about 5 years now, and they've just announced that 4 of the episodes of the NBC US version of Who Do You Think You Are is going to be shown on BBC One. That's starting April 25th. Now, of course, Ancestry sponsors the series here in the U.S., but I know that they don't advertise that, or they're not an official sponsor in the U.K., so it's going to be interesting to see how that works. Maybe it'll give Ancestry a little extra exposure over there to the British audience. Here in the U.S., we've got one of the biggest genealogy conferences coming up. The Southern California Genealogy Society Jamboree is being held January 11th through the 13th of 2010 in Burbank, California. But wait! Announcement, the early bird discount deadline is fast approaching. Registration for the Jamboree early bird discount ends Friday, April 30th of 2010. So by registering before the early bird deadline, you're going to save $10 on the basic subscription and $5 on every special event that you attend. And in addition, everyone who registers by April 30th is going to receive a free printed copy of the syllabus, which is worth $20. So that's a pretty good deal. And those who register May 1st or after receive only the CD. So head over to scgsgenealogy.com for Southern California Genealogy Society. And then click on the Jamboree 2010 icon there. We'll have a link that takes you directly in so you can get signed up for that. I'm going to be there. I think Lacey's coming with me, my daughter Lacey. She'll be there at the booth. And oh my gosh, we're going to be teaching, Google Earth for Genealogy and the Google One class and a couple of others. So it's going to be a fun and busy time. I can't wait to be there, and I hope to see you guys there. Well, that's it for the news. So let's hear from you at the mailbox.
Bring me a letter from my old hometown, one with some jokes from my old pal Jim Brown. Bring me a letter from that girl of mine, saying that she's longing for me all the time. Bring me a letter from my proud old dad, who knows that we are winning, and I bet he's glad. But more than any other, a line from my old mother. Bring me a letter from my hometown.
Okay, well, the first email we've got here in the mailbox is from Carol Kendall. She says, I've been listening to your podcast since I discovered them last year. I heard one about transcription software, but I was not able to capture the name of the program. Can you tell me what it was and what the website is? Well, you bet, Carol. That was talked about. Actually, it was Denise Levenick, blogger Denise Levenick. She was on this show, and she is fantastic with her tech tips. And one of them was a software program called Transcript 2.3. Now, she was talking about that on the Family History Genealogy Made Easy podcast, my other podcast. It was episode number 36. I'll have a link directly to that episode in the show notes for this episode today. But again, the software program that she was talking about was called Transcript 2.3. It's a free download, and it is at Jacob. And I'll have to spell this for you. It's Jacob B like boy, OEREMA.NL/EN/freeware.htm. Love those URL addresses. Okay, I'll have that in the show notes for you so you can download that free transcription software. It works really slick. It's great if you're trying to, let's say, if you've got letters or a diary or that type of thing, it's handwritten. You can see it on the top and you can type on the bottom, and it works very slick. So, good question. And Deborah Mullins Vernon wrote, and she says, hello again. Can you answer a quick question about noting a source? I have a 1954 newspaper article on my great-grandma. She says, boy, I really wish I could have gotten to know her. What a hoot. She says, and there were some facts mentioned in that I would like to include in my Ancestry.com tree. The one prompting this message is that she and my great-grandpa immigrated from Canada in 1910, but I haven't found official documentation to verify it. Would I cite this as a fact or a comment? Thanks for your time, and I really enjoy your podcast. Thanks for all your hard work. And that's from Debbie. She was on Facebook. Well, Debbie, there are several levels of sources, as you know. Some are primary. Those are first-hand accounts at or close to the time of an event. And there, of course, are secondary sources that were recorded usually after the fact, often by a third party. And that's kind of the category that newspaper articles fall into. If this were in your database, I would say just enter it in as any other fact and be sure just to cite the source. Because the source itself tells you that you still need to look for a primary source because, you're aware that a newspaper is a secondary source. But I can see how posting information on your ancestry tree would be a little bit different because you have no idea who's going to be viewing the tree or how they're going to interpret it. Therefore, on a tree, I would recommend that you would maybe put it as a comment. Better safe than sorry. You don't want to get a barrage of argumentative emails from other Ancestry subscribers saying, no, that's not true, or, that's not a primary source. So I think it'd be great to make a comment on it, but you don't have to necessarily put it as an official fact. So I hope that helps out. And I have some emails here, some feedback on the new Google Earth for Genealogy DVD that we just published a couple of weeks ago. Susan Miller Hawkins left a comment on my Facebook page. She says, I had my popcorn while I watched part 2, 3, and 4 of the Google Earth videos. I am learning so much. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome, Susan. Thank you. I am so glad that you're enjoying them.
Hi, Lisa. This is Mary Lohr. I wanted to thank you for the most recent Google Earth for Genealogy series on using the Bureau of Land Management site in conjunction with EarthPoint to view land images via Google Earth. At 11 o'clock last night, I had tears running down my cheeks. I saw an aerial view of the land my great-grandfather John Swan's homesteaded in Dakota Territory. Even though the nearest camera images were about a mile away, I could still see the lay of the land by zooming in. This is just a terrific tool. Thank you so much for your practical and helpful video series, your podcast, interview, and instructional series.
Oh, well, thank you, Mary. Thanks for calling in on the voicemail line. You can do the same like Mary did at 925-272-4021. And to get a copy of Google Earth for Genealogy, the DVD, it's for the PC. We don't have a version yet for the Mac, but Mac users can become premium members, and the same videos are on the premium membership. But if you want that hard copy that you can take with you and play on any PC, go to googleforgenealogy.com or just click the link in the show notes for this episode number 87, and that'll take you there. You can order it there online. Well, I have one more email here that ties in nicely to our first gem, and that is coming up next.
Who knows that we are winning, and I'll bet he's glad, but more than any other, a line from my old mother. Bring me a letter from my hometown.
Roots Magic 4 has been completely rewritten and is now even more powerful and makes building your family tree easier than ever. I love it. With Roots Magic, you can add unlimited facts, find anyone in your database with lightning speed with Roots Magic Explorer, quickly and easily create perfectly formatted sources with the Roots Magic Source Wizard, create customized reports, and best of all, you can now take Roots Magic wherever your research takes you with the Roots Magic to Go, which lets you run Roots Magic directly off your flash drive. And Roots Magic makes it a snap to share your family history, publish a book, create stunning wall charts, shareable CDs, even generate websites automatically from your data. To download your risk-free trial of Roots Magic 4, head to rootsmagic.com. See why professionals and beginners alike choose Roots Magic at rootsmagic.com. Well, I mentioned that I have one more email here that ties in well with this first gem, and it is again from Deborah Mullins Vernon. She says, "Hello again. I wrote to you recently about my great-grandmother, who was a hoot," remember that, and she says, "I have a newspaper article about her, and in the article is a picture of her with 3 senior Girl Scouts. I'd like to try to find them or their descendants to offer them a copy. The caption lists their names, but it's entirely possible that they still are alive. How could I try to find them without stalking or invading their privacy? Since they were teens at the time, I'm sure they've married, so names were changed. Any thoughts? Thanks again, and hugs from Debbie Vernon." Well, Debbie, great question. You know, when it comes to finding living people, you can find out a lot of information. We covered that in premium episode number 3. It's all about finding living people using the techniques that private investigators use. You can still get that episode. It's an archived episode now. It's available through the Genealogy Gems store at lulu.com. I'm going to have a link in the show notes for you. Or you can just go to lulu.com, search Genealogy Gems. That episode is just 99 cents. You can download it, and it includes a downloadable version of the show notes. And I'm very happy to say that my article, which is called Be a Family History Detective, 10 Tactics for Tracing Elusive Ancestors, is the cover story on the newest issue of Family Tree magazine. It's the July 2010 issue. It just hit the newsstands, and it is available also at shopfamilytree.com. So 2 resources right there to help you kind of track down living people or their descendants. And that article has a bunch of tips for that. But there's another angle here to Debbie's question that ties in with this first gem. The folks that she's looking for are Girl Scouts. And when it comes to scouting, there may just be a few research leads there as well. I loved being a Girl Scout as a kid, and so when Mark Tucker of the Think Genealogy blog approached me recently at a family history expo dressed in a complete Boy Scout outfit, I was very intrigued indeed. turns out that Mark is not only passionate about scouting, but he's done his homework to investigate what type of family history information might be gleaned through researching an ancestor's scouting history. And what better time than now to talk about the Boy Scouts, as this wonderful organization celebrates its 100 years of scouting this year. So let's listen in and see what Mark Tucker can tell us about scouting in our family history. Well, I'm here at the Family History Expo in Mesa, Arizona, and had a chance to sit down and talk with Mark Tucker. But we are not going to be talking so much about Think Genealogy this time, although you do have the thinkgenealogy.com website. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But we're going to be talking about a whole different subject, one I think that you're probably very passionate about, and one that I think is going to kind of open our eyes to some new possibilities in terms of our research. And that's scouting, and specifically Boy Scouting. Tell us what's on your mind and what's going on over at your booth.
Okay, I'm here at the Family History Expo. I had this crazy idea of having a booth at the expo because it's the 100 years of scouting. And the idea is that we want to get people excited about their scouting heritage, how to preserve it, and just ideas on what they can do that maybe they haven't even thought about, how scouting can link to genealogy. There is a genealogy merit badge that the Boy Scouts can earn, but there are lots more things that are related to family history and scouting.
Well, so let's go over some of the basics. When did the Boy Scouts first start?
Okay, the Boy Scouts of America was formed in 1910, so this is literally the 100 years. And but Cub Scouting came later in the 1930s. But there's all kinds of scouting programs that I didn't really realize at first that was related with the Boy Scouts. That could be the Sea Scouts or Air Scouts, Explorers. There's venturing. There's lots of different associations that are all under the Boy Scouts of America umbrella.
Now, of course, all of us probably knew a brother or ourselves or, our uncles or whoever maybe was involved in scouting. But do you have a ballpark idea of what's the number of people? How many families could this have touched?
Well, it's estimated that over 110 million boys were involved in the scouting program. There are millions of more volunteers over the years. Over this last 100 years, there's been 115 million merit badges earned and 2 million Eagle Scouts.
Wow, so there's a lot of people involved here.
and some of these could very well be your scouting ancestors.
Right. So let's talk a little bit, because you were telling me that there are records. Like any organization, these folks are generating records as they are running their different clubs. And that was one of the first things that you were telling me, was that a club has to start. So even though they've been around since 1910, of course, not every chapter has been. So what was the process for starting a chapter?
Well, at the very beginning, once Boy Scouts were formed, there were actually already other organizations that were before the Boy Scouts that kind of merged into Boy Scouts, or sometimes people would hear about the Boy Scouts in England since they started first and just form their own groups. But as things were starting to get organized, a group of boys might hear about scouting and be interested, and they would write to the national office, which at that time was in New York, and they would ask about how do we start a scouting troop. And so they would always get a letter back that would say, well, you need to find some man to be the scoutmaster, and we'll go ahead and get you organized. As things progressed and as more and more scouts grew, they needed to have some more leadership besides just national and then the local units or troops, and then for Cub Scouts it would be packs. So what they did is they created local councils. At one time there were over 700 local councils. It could be a council for part of a city, for a county, for a multi-county area, and now over the years they're trying to consolidate those, and we have about 300 councils. Sometimes councils change boundaries. So, for example, I grew up in Utah, and I was part of the Lake Bonneville Council, but now that doesn't exist anymore. It's part of the Trapper Trails Council, which takes in parts of various different states. So, kind of like county boundaries changed. Council boundaries changed over time, which is kind of an interesting thing, and that's important because a lot of the membership records are now at the council.
So at the council level, just like when we look for records in the United States, we're going to the county level.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So probably in the very early years when a scoutmaster or some member of the local council would register, then those types of records would be probably available at the national level. And then each council would actually have to be chartered every year with the National Council, and now and all the local units, the troops, have to be chartered every year with their local councils. And so at that time there's a membership list or roster that is included. And so like the last 10 years are probably on the computer, in a computer system at your local council, but any records before that are actually housed in local archives. Now, because it's a private organization and some of the records are sensitive as far as listing boys now, then there is limited access. But each of the policies for the local councils varies. You'll have to contact the local council. But in order to look up your ancestors' record at the local council, it's kind of difficult. You have to first know which council they belong to, what year they were a scout, and then which unit they belong to. So that would be the troop number. So right now it's kind of difficult, but hopefully as time goes by and we're able to get those records preserved, then maybe indexes could be to get formed for those.
So if by chance you inherited a little scrapbook and it had that kind of like a membership card or something with that information on it,
yes.
And there's a couple membership cards that you were showing me, and maybe we'll be able to post a couple of images on the website to go with this. That would be great, so folks can look at this. It has the name, and you have your father, your grandfather here, but it does have their unit number. Now, and it does say the council, so Utah National Parks Council, and then you would go to unit number 171. So if you inherited something like this, you could at least give it a shot and see if they'd be able to work with you.
You can see what years, and really all the information that they're going to have is the membership information. Any information about what rank they might have obtained or what merit badges they earned, they don't have that type of information. Now, if they reach the rank of Eagle Scout, which is the highest rank in scouting, then that type of information would be available at the national council level, which the national headquarters are in Irving, Texas.
Okay, great. And also in Irving, while we're talking about that, there is also a National Scouting Museum. Tell us about it.
Well, I did some research on that. I haven't been. It would be an exciting place to go, but there's over 500,000 artifacts that are available to this museum. I guess lots of people who have scouting memorabilia from their ancestors and don't know what to do with it would donate it to that museum. And there is a curator and an archivist both at that museum. So I'm looking forward to further contact with them and learning more about what's there.
Yeah. When I knew we were going to get together and talk, I went and checked it out, and there isn't a lot in terms of online exhibitions right now on the website, but you never know. There might be. We'll have the website address in the show notes so that people can kind of keep tabs of it and get in touch with them if they want to. So let's talk about if it's possible that you may not even necessarily know how to get to the right unit, or that unit may say, we're not in a really position to share those records at this point. What other kinds of scouting memorabilia could we find, or records could we maybe find in other alternative places?
Okay. Well, there's a few places that you want to check. First you're going to go through the typical going through your closets or your attics or whatever, and just start asking people. Was Grandpa a Boy Scout, or whatever question that you want to that might spark some interest, and then maybe a shirt will come out, or some badges, or some old books, and that would be probably the place to start, and probably the best place to actually find out if your ancestor was involved in scouting. Other places that you can look, though, it's kind of interesting. You can go on Google Books and you can actually find the original 1911 edition of the Boy Scout Handbook, and that's kind of fun. You get to see what the uniform looks like and what their requirements and all kinds of fun things. And actually, it's interesting because if you have a book, one of the editions of the Boy Scout Handbook of your ancestor, it will have a place for their name, likely their age, if not their birth date, what location they lived in, all kinds of information that might be helpful for family history. Kind of think of it as maybe a family Bible type of a record. Or what's also kind of interesting is there's a Scoutmaster Handbook, the original edition of that is also on Google Books. Now, if you want to use Google News, you can actually look at newspapers and you can say, well, where was scouting formed, and you can find articles about that. It does a really good job of narrowing things down. Google News is great for that.
I would imagine, too, a site like Ancestry that has newspapers and Genealogy Bank, any of these different types of online sites, you could use Boy Scout in your search terms. So particularly in the case of a person who has maybe a more generic name, where you get tons and tons of articles, you could narrow it down, because I would imagine when they would have a camp or an award ceremony or something, and the smaller the town, the better, they might have listed your ancestor, and there you've got that confirmation that they were in the scouting.
Yep, exactly. Now, besides the volunteers and Boy Scouts themselves, there were a number of paid employees of Boy Scouts. In fact, in the original Boy Scout Handbook, I think it lists 188 people that were part of the National Council. Maybe one of your ancestors was one of the founders of Scouting.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be fascinating? Now, and also you have here, we were looking at an example of a record that you found on eBay, one of my favorite places. Tell us about it.
Well, I was just wondering about what other types of artifacts there might be that would help somebody do their family history research. And so I decided to check out eBay. And for some reason, I just got really hooked on wanting to get this membership record of a James Ross. And he lived in Texas. And so I bid on it, and I won the bid for the membership card. But it's interesting. It has information such as his birth date and where he was involved in scouting and his mother's name. But it's interesting because for some reason he was at the state home in, I think it's Corsicana, Texas, and it's an orphan's home. And I was able, with the information that I had on the card, actually look in the 1930 census, since this card is from 1935, and I was able to find him and his mom and sibling in the census. And then, now 5 years later, he is at this home, and I'm not sure what happened. Maybe his mother passed away. Maybe because of the Great Depression, the family couldn't afford to keep him in the family anymore, and so he ended up in the orphan home.
Wow, so you have your own family history mystery for somebody else to work on and hopefully track down and see if you can't find a living descendant.
Yeah, it'd be really exciting if I could find, for the 100 years of scouting, the descendant of this James Ross, and then if that descendant happened to be in scouting as well. That would be just so exciting.
Well, if you do, you have to promise to come back on the show and tell us the story.
We'll do that.
And finally, you mentioned to me that there were a couple of magazines, and they were really early on in the life of scouting that maybe, again, could have some info.
Yeah, so almost from the very beginning of scouting, in 1912, Boy's Life magazine came out. It's been in continuous publication since then. Scouting magazine started out as a newsletter in 1913 and now as a magazine for scouting volunteers. And it has different stories about scouts that have earned awards. Maybe it's heroism award or special awards of merit, or different stories that could include your ancestor's name. It would be great one day if every issue could be found of both of those magazines and maybe put online or on a searchable CD, and then who knows who we could find in that.
You bet. And I'm guessing that there are some people who are listening to this now and they're going, oh, I think I have a couple of issues of that, or oh, yeah. And then they go and ask and they find out, what do they do next? And what are you going to do next in terms of this whole new area of thinking about scouting as a source for us?
Well, I don't know. I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. But if anybody has those types of artifacts or lost items that are interested in trying to find homes for, then just contact me on the Think Genealogy blog, and we'll see what we can do. There's all kinds of things that are available. I would love to get more people involved, maybe genealogy societies, in working with the Boy Scouts to preserve their records, and over time, as it makes sense, to release some of those names publicly in indexes, so that people can start to learn more about their scouting heritage.
You know, it's funny, because you and I talked on email, and we talked for a few minutes here before we started the interview, and we were talking about ways that people might be able to partner and help bring records online. And it just hit me that I know with our local genealogy society, the local Boy Scouts contacted us, and oftentimes they'll have their genealogy badge, and they'll ask us to come and assist, a group of boys to get them started or whatever. They're always looking for projects, and societies are always looking for projects to assist their community. What better project for the Boy Scouts, who probably haven't thought, they've been thinking, looking outward, and to get them to maybe take a moment and say, we have our own source here. That would be an amazing genealogy badge coordinated project within Boy Scouts to get them involved in indexing.
Exactly, and every Boy Scout for their Eagle Award needs to do a huge service project. That involves him leading volunteers in different things. Some of the different things that I've seen over the past, I've seen a Boy Scout for his Eagle service project to go through and index or transcribe all the headstones in a cemetery.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I've seen situations where they've used things like FamilySearch indexing and got a group of people together to do so many names on that type of indexing project. In fact, I was talking to Ancestry today because they're here at the expo doing scanning of documents, and I was talking to the person there, and his son did an Eagle service project with those cameras. So he was able to get the cameras to the area where the Boy Scout was and teach them on how to use it, and then they just invited people from the community to come in and scan their own personal documents, and that was his Eagle project. So
It
there's
sounds
all
like-
kinds of things to do.
Yeah, we just need hopefully to plant a seed. I think that's what you're doing. And there's people out there, and they've got their kids, and perhaps some folks will kind of step up to the plate and coordinate an effort like that. That would be really cool. And it sounds like from the numbers we're talking, and the length of the span of time of 100 years, that's going to touch a lot of families.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
A couple other things that I wanted to bring up is the fact that I really first started just thinking about this idea, and I thought, well, I wonder how many scouting sources there are on the Family History Library. I thought, that would be a great place to look.
Yeah.
And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has been involved in scouting for many years. I did a search, 4 books came up in the Family History Library, and that really surprised me. Other places that you might want to look is that in 1916, the Boy Scouts received a federal charter, and that protected the name Boy Scouts as well as the uniform design and the insignia. In essence, it was kind of a copyright for the Boy Scouts to protect them. But as a result of that, every year they needed to submit an annual report. So that could have some information in it. There is a library in Manchester, New Hampshire. It is the Lee Scouting Museum and the Silver Scouting Library that has a whole bunch of these different, what are they called? Annual reports, sorry. And all this different information that could be used as well if somebody in that area wanted to go through and start indexing or pulling information out and putting it online. That would be great.
Oh, it sounds great. I love your enthusiasm for it. It's so cool. Just when you think that every source has been identified, something else comes up and you go, oh, there's names, there's addresses.
Well, if we think that one of the staples of family history research is the census, but that's only taken every 10 years, and then we can supplement that with state census. But what if we were able to then one day get access to the membership records? We would know year by year for that age range if somebody was there, and we might even be able to figure out what year they moved in a specific year. One year they were a member of the Boy Scouts there, and the next year they weren't.
Exactly. Wonderful. Well, again, I invite you all listening to visit Mark at his blog and website, thinkgenealogy.com. I'll have the website address for the Boy Scout Museum, as well as some of the other resources, and hopefully some of these images of these really neat and kind of graphically interesting documents, and hopefully there'll be some people inspired. And of course, if they are, we want you to email us at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com and let us know, and get a hold of Mark too if you need some help, and maybe we'll make all this happen. Mark, thank you so much. You always have fascinating ideas and things going on. Thanks for talking to us.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it.
Wow, so many great ideas about our scouting heritage and its role in our family history. If you'd like to learn more about scouting, I do have some additional resources for you. First of all, head over to the Boy Scouts 100 Years of Scouting History website. You can find that at scouting.org/100years/100 years. And for the Girl Scouts, visit their official website at girlscouts.org. And the neat thing is that you can go directly to the Girl Scouts Council Finder page on the site to locate and get in touch with the council where ancestors participated in scouting. To do that, go to girlscouts.org/council finder. And finally, check out genealogy blogger Denise Lovenick's blog. Remember Denise? I said that she told us about the transcription software. Well, she had a blog post that was terrific. It's called On My Honor, We Were Girl Scouts When Scouting Wasn't Cool. And I'll have a link to that also in the show notes. And if you have any experience with researching your scouting ancestors or have found a gem after listening to this episode, please email me at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com. I know we would all love to hear about it. I love bringing these genealogical gems to you that help boost your research and build a strong family tree. And it's important to me to always have free podcasts available so that everyone can participate. If you enjoy these free shows and you would like to help me cover the costs of bringing them to you each week, there's a really easy way to do that won't cost you a thing. By coming to my website at genealogygems.tv whenever you need to do some shopping online and accessing your favorite stores and websites through the links that you find on my site, you financially support the show. The price you pay is exactly the same, but Genealogy Gems receives a small percentage for referring you. It's just that simple. Amazon is one of my all-time favorite places to shop online. They have just about everything and at incredibly competitive prices. So next time you're looking for books, DVDs, software, electronics, apparel, pretty much anything at all, head to genealogygems.tv and click the Amazon ad that you find on the homepage or throughout the website. And these free podcasts will benefit by any shopping that you do. And you will get the same super low prices. Everybody wins. So if you enjoyed the Genealogy Gems podcast and the Family History Genealogy Made Easy podcast, let your mouse do the shopping through the ads and links on the Genealogy Gems website, and together we'll keep new episodes coming for a long time to come.
Profile America, Saturday, April 24th. An invention that became part of the social fabric of the nation for more than a century was patented on this date in 1833, the soda fountain. It had a long marble counter with customers sitting on high stools. The ice cream soda came along in 1874 and was scorned by authorities as frivolous. Many communities outlawed their sale on Sunday. This in turn led to the development of the ice cream sundae, which did not use soda water. For decades, soda fountains served as a meeting and gathering place for young people. Soda fountains have gone, but the ice cream they served remains popular. Americans eat an average of just over 25 pounds of frozen dairy products annually. Profile America is presented by the U.S. Census Bureau, now conducting the 2010 census.
Well, that's it for this episode number 87 of the Genealogy Gems podcast. Hey, thanks so much to my special guest, Mark Tucker of thinkgenealogy.com, for talking to us about scouting history. Great ideas. Mark is really one of those guys who's out there thinking outside the box. We love that. And as always, I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments, you can email me at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, be sure and take advantage of that free Genealogy Gems toolbar. It's terrific. You can download it to your internet browser. It can travel with you wherever you surf on the web. And you can listen to not only this show, but back issues of the Family History podcast, as well as all of the episodes of the Family Tree Magazine podcast. Of course, we also have that little tree icon that gives you quick one-click links to some of the best websites out there, as well as lots of other things, including our YouTube channel. So check it out. It's a free download. Just go to the genealogygemspodcast.ourtoolbar.com. Well, thanks so much for listening, friend. I'll talk to you soon.